Congratulations. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch you coach.
Hey, we're popped up. These opportunities, Chris, they don't come along three times sometimes, and so we're blessed, man.
Well, I think you're doing something right. That's why they keep coming up. So, congrats, man. Heard a lot of great things about you. It's nice talking to you. Appreciate it.
Chris, the only thing that I question your choice on a few things. So I got to get this out. I just got to start it,
Yeah.
You consider Jay Glazer a friend, I know, and like family to you now.
I
know you're a smart man. You and I both have fell into that same trap,
Yes. When the phone rings and says Jay Glazer, I take a long, hard look at it. You know what I mean? So that's funny. No, man, but I appreciate the time. And I just want to start and ask you a little bit about camp because, it's that time of year. And when you're retired, I'm thinking about all the stuff I don't have to do anymore. And, the meetings, the two-a-days, well, y'all don't really have them anymore. Hey, here's my question. Do coaches get sore in camp, man? You're a former player. I see Dan Campbell doing up downs. I see, Vrabel getting on the bags. Do you get sore during camp?
I do, but, Chris, I live in Arizona too. So I was in Scottsdale for 30 days. Every day I went out in the sun, as I've gotten older, I've kind of changed up what I do. I push up and I walk every day is what I do. So you got to come in decent shape. And do you get sore? Yeah, you do. I mean, it's just, you're moving, I keep track of my steps and just like the players do, I do. But as you mentioned, I mean, there was a time, Chris, when we had 2 days and for players, we went 9 on 7, both practices.
Yeah.
So it's a different day now for sure.
Yeah. No, it is. It's crazy. And, I got to see a little bit of the old CBA. I was one of the last, those classes that had to go to work with what I would call old NFL veterans. They're different, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Hasn't it changed a little bit? Like what it means? When you have a veteran in today's game, I feel like that means something because it's really hard to keep vets around, what do you think about the way the game's changed and like the age of the guys in the locker room and being able to rely on leadership?
Well, I think first off, it's a must. And I love young athletes coming through, but to me, you're not going to have a successful team unless you have some guys that have been through it, that know how to lead. And, young players, they want to make it in the league. They'll follow you if you're doing it the right way. So we have that in our locker room, both sides of the football, real men that take care of their business and do it a certain way. And as a football coach, I have to take care of them too. Watch, they're not going to get as many reps. And we're going to watch a little bit on what they do. Their role is going to be a little bit different for us. We have the Rex Burkheads. We have the Derek of the Worlds, Mario Addisons, Brandon Cooks. And our guys lead the right way.
Mario Addison, really underrated player.
Yeah. When he came out of college, I was a head coach for the Bears, and we brought him in as a free agent. Loved him. And it's just amazing if you're a ball player and you talk about handling your business. I think Mario maybe 13 years or so this year too. Just done it the right way. Yeah. And you got to see him now. But you can't tell he's a veteran by the way he practices. He's the one. Our older players are the ones that's leading everything,
Yeah. Well, because, you need that. Like I said, I mean, when I walked into a locker room in 2008 in St. Louis, I was lucky to have Leonard Little, Fred Robbins, Leroy Glover, like all those guys over the course of a couple of years, not to mention a bunch of guys in secondary and that sort of thing that have been in the league over 10 years. And, it's just, if nobody's there to teach these young guys the right habits, by example, it's going to be hard. Generally, I want to read you a quote by this will help me ask this question here. This was Brian Urlacher, and I'm paraphrasing. It's great for football to have, Lovie be back as a coach, great leader of men, whole team looked up to him. One of those guys that you're scared to let down, not because you're afraid to get in trouble, but because of the type of man he is. And I think that's the right kind of leadership style. But do you ever have to reach into your bag and scare anybody?
Well, really, you get to a point, Chris, where if there's respect, you shouldn't have to do that very often.
Right.
And you set the standard on how we're going to do things. And when I talk about veteran leadership, they know the standard. And it's just not me I can't be the only cop on the team. When you have right leaders, a lot of things before I can get there, guys are taking care of it.
Yeah.
And eventually when you establish how you do things, and we got to that position in Chicago, we never compromise it. And it's amazing when you let people know exactly what's acceptable on what they'll do. They follow. I've never had, if it took Chris cursing out players and all that, I wouldn't be in the game, because I don't think you coach on fear. But what I found is that smart football players, if you know what you're talking about and you let them know the reason why, they'll do anything you ask them to do. That's been my time in football in general, and that's the way we run our program.
What do you think if I asked one of your vets what Lovie Smith's pet peeves are? What do you think they would say?
I think first off, they're going to talk about, we around here, we talk about showing up first. And that is just not being here. That's showing up, Chris, old school. You show up on time. The first step to getting better is to show up ready to go on time. They're going to say, I'm not going to compromise it. I would hope they would talk about the fundamentals on how you do things. We're not going to deviate from this. Mm-hmm. And I would hope the guys would talk about my belief in how we do things and the result. I know the ending on how this is going to play out based on first, coaching staff, everybody's been vetted. And then player-wise, if we get the right kind of players, that's left up to us. I know what the ending is going to be like. Everywhere I've been, it's been that way. Times when we didn't get it done, some of those things didn't happen. And I love the position we're in now, building it the right way here.
Take the listeners who are younger back through a schedule like in the 90s of a training camp, before things got easier. Like how long, were people in the hotel? How long were you on the practice field?
I'm glad you asked this question, Chris.
Yeah.
Yes. First off, I think the rules now say you have to get players off once every 7 days.
It's amazing. It's awesome.
We gave off 6 days. 6 of the days we're going to pretty much be in practice. We would start off early in the morning. Practice would, let's say 11 o'clock practice, whatever. Mm-hmm. Our days, we would, lifting in the morning. Our days would end. Our meetings ended at 10 o'clock each night. Think about that, mm-hmm. Practice-wise. So we'd have a early morning practice, late afternoon practice, both 2-hour practices. So that was training camp. Chris, for us right now, this is what we do. 3 days on, a day off. I mean, shouldn't you be able to handle that?
You should. And I think that's why your veterans you can't tell they're veterans. Because they're like, this shit's easy compared to.
And really something else. Eventually, Chris, if you have a bunch of guys, you got to bed check them every night and do all of that stuff. You're not going anywhere. Yeah. Our rookies have to stay in the hotel. Yeah. Our veterans go home each night.
Yeah.
So we're giving our guys, we have a leadership group. They say, Lovie, let us run the locker room. We'll take care of everything. Right. And if guys start acting up, we know we have to do some other thing. Same way, Chris, the night before game. I mean, to me, for you to play your best ball, what's most comfortable for you? In a hotel room, in a bad bed, or your bed? I'm going to let our guys stay in their beds.
Yeah.
Now, we have curfew. If somebody gets caught, that's different. We have rules. Yeah. If you break a rule, maximum fines right away. There's got to be punishment when we screw up. But the guys that are real pros are treat them like men and behave that way.
I think I remember Jim Haslett, one of my many coaches in St. Louis, but my guy, Jim Haslett, he gave us, the night before games, we got to stay at home. And just what you said is that, I really think if you're a pro, you're going to handle your business, right?
Yes.
And that's on the coaches and the GMs to put together a team of people you don't have to worry about acting like children, right?
It is that way. And And whatever makes you comfortable. Some of our players, they love it. I got a lot of people at home. Hey, we got to get your room. Come to the hotel.
Yeah.
But hey, sometimes when you're away night before, like we have a few of our guys with young children. Mm-hmm. Is everything okay at the house? But if I'm there sleeping and know that they're safe, that's putting me in the best frame of mind to get ready for the next day.
Yeah.
So these things that we do, it's just common sense things that we do. And eventually you get to game day, we know what we need to be able to do then.
Is it so easy now that you don't throw bones anymore? You know how we used to say, hey, throw us a bone, coach?
Well,
you don't take guys to the movies now. You're like, well, what? We've been at work 2 days.
Yeah. We throw them, you have to eventually, everybody wants a surprise, right, Chris? So
last
day of minicamp, guys ready to go. I let them stretch. But then, we pulled the buses up. We went to Top Golf. So you have to throw them a bone every once in a while after you put in a certain amount of work. I'm going to say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So training camp pranks. I don't know if you were big on them. Jeff Fisher was big on training camp pranks, like keep things light. But my brother got to Chicago. This was after you, but there were still some guys that you coached there. And his first couple nights, he ended up with a tarantula in his bed. And to this day, he's got a couple people in mind. I want to read a couple of the names. I want to read you 3 names that are the suspects here. And you tell me who you think it might have been.
All right.
Lance Briggs was still there. We got Roberto Garza, and he's from Texas, and they have big spiders down there. And then here's my prime suspect here. And I just did a live watch with the guy, and he'd be the type that would do it. Charles Peanut Tillman. Who do you think put the tarantula out of those 3 guys in my brother's bed?
Well, I could if everyone to know Charles, we could easily see Charles. And Charles has done a few things like that before to keep it light. Yeah. I'm going to also say that Lance Briggs, both of those guys, they're going to show up every day at practice, not going to miss anything, going to play a certain way, but they do like to have a good time at the right time. Yeah. But why I would maybe think about Roberto is, you're right, he's from down here. And most of the time when a prank is done to an offensive lineman, you got to be in the club. You got to be one offensive lineman to even attempt to do do So
you got to be fearless, because my brother was 6'7", 330. So
I know
the only guy that I think had the balls to do it might have been Roberto. But now we've got Tillman's in the FBI. He's sneaky. So I had to ask that question. Okay, so the first thing I noticed about what you guys did last year defensively was the takeaways. I think you guys did an amazing job of that. I think you were top 10 in takeaways. Interception percentage was top 5. That's kind of been a thing. How do you make that change in a team's culture? Because being ball aware is a whole thing that coaches always talk about. Absolutely. But how do you actually apply that pressure to make that change? First,
just, Chris, establishing what is important. I mean, what's winning defensive football? I mean, people say the best defense, what is it? Total yardage, which is one of the most overrated things that there is. But for us, it's not a good defensive game. Our number one goal is to score, just like offense. But from there, it's defense. We preach it constantly, and we practice it. An incomplete pass is a form of recovery. Every snap, we should see guys punching the football. And so that's what we do. We've put such an emphasis on it. It's not, Chris, about, hey, we run a takeaway drill to start practice. It's every snap, you're just constantly coaching that up. In our history, since about 2001 in St. Louis, we've had over 30 every year, and as high as 52. So there's something about that. And once you get guys buying into that, and Chris, it not only helps your defense, but it helps your offense. Yeah, getting them the football, but offense, it's about ball security. Knowing that every snap, somebody's going to be yanking, pulling the ball, it makes our guys carrying the ball have better, security also.
Yeah, and it gets them pissed off too sometimes in practice.
And that's a good thing, especially in training camp.
Well, let me ask you that then. Where are you on training camp fights? Because I've been a whole bunch of different places where they had different.
Funny you would ask that. The day was the first one that we had.
How was it?
Well, fights. First off, a couple things. Chris, when you and your brother fight, you're not going to, cheap shot him. You're going to fight like men. So I tell the guys, if you just have to fight, you better fight him like you would fight your brother. Mm-hmm. And if y'all still need to sell something, the three of us are going to the indoor facility on our own and we'll sell it. But in games, you get thrown out of games. If you get in a fight in a game, you're hurting our team.
Yep.
So if you see a fight in our practice, which we had today, start running, start jogging. You got all that energy? We'll work it off a little.
Not anymore, we don't. Not anymore.
Exactly.
Hey, after that fight, we're gassed.
So that's why we don't put up with that. You start fighting, and you just feel like you have to. I'm talking about from Laramie Tunsil to Malik Collins, Jerry Holmes, whoever it is. That's how we do it.
Yeah, because it's true. You're gassed after you fight. That's the most gas you'll ever be on a football field is fighting in August.
Yeah, and be noticed a different way. Be noticed, make some plays, and the attention will come to you then. Exactly. Tough guys, your toughest guys normally don't fight. They know better. They
don't have to. They don't have to. Yeah. So Davis Mills, man, he's one of my favorite young players in the league.
Yes.
I think I heard you say this, and I agree with this assessment. He'd have been easily the first quarterback drafted this year.
Absolutely.
So, what an asset for y'all to have this high pick this year. You know what I mean? It's kind of like having one grandfathered in. What have you seen from him? And what did you see from him that made you want to make him a captain? I heard you talk about that as well.
Well, last year, Chris, I'm the defensive coordinator. Tyrod's our quarterback. So, he's going against the number one defense. He's running look squad. So I got a chance to see him then. That's when the relationship first started.
Yeah.
Then preparing and then get in a position where he's the guy. And if you look at how he played at the end of the year, there were a few bright things that happened for us. He was one of them.
Yeah.
He can make all the throws. He's one of the guys. The guys, they like him, want him to do well, and will do what he asks him to do. So I've just seen every time the building has been open, he's been in it. So he's done all those things that make you want to follow him. Yeah. So I buy into him. Then you have to move. Now he's moved into that role. I'm the guy, man. I know I'm a second-year guy, but I'm the guy.
Yeah.
And we've just watched the way he's worked. He's protecting the football. He's a better athlete also than he gets credit for. We played against, all the young quarterbacks in the league. We played against them last year. Good players. He's in that mix. And I'm going to bet that he's going to be one of them that's going to go to the top.
Does he do extra neck work in the room?
It looks that way.
That guy's neck, man.
It looks that way. And that's why he's one of the guys too.
Yeah.
You have to be accepted by your offensive line, number one.
Yes.
They believe in you. He's one of the guys.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about what he's going to do for us.
Do you think that your quarterback has to be, there has to be leadership. There has to be respect. Do you think the quarterback has to be one of the top three leaders on the team? Like you've coached a lot of teams.
Absolutely.
You do.
I've just never seen it. Okay. If a lot of times when it's a young quarterback, maybe he's a rookie and you don't want him to be in that role.
Right.
But he has to be in the leadership role. There's no way around it. Yeah. I think the same thing with your Mike linebacker. If your Mike linebacker, he's making all the calls and he's not your guy, you're not going anywhere. Quarterback, Mike linebacker, they have to be in that role. A part of their the things that you're looking for, it's got to be on who they are. We have that in Davis Mills. And then it didn't hurt that he's a Stanford guy. I know, Chris, all of the tests you did well. You're known as a smart. It doesn't hurt to have a guy with that intellect also, at both of those positions, because they have to be. Davis Mills has to know the offense as well as Pep. He does.
Yeah.
And that would definitely be the case for him.
I also think one of the most important kind of intelligence for a football player is emotional intelligence, which I think you have as a coach, right? Like understanding people and, being able to relate to people. Like, and if you have that and the intelligence, like that's what makes a leader, in my opinion.
That is definitely the case. And, a lot of times, people say, hey, leadership, and he's a leader. He just scream and yell. No, it's got to be substance to what you say when you open your mouth. and that is Davis. Yeah. He's not going to dog cuss the guys and all of that. He's going to take care of his business. But if he has to let somebody know something, he'll do that.
Yeah.
And I've seen different guys, and these are the kind of guys, I'm talking about the quarterback position, that can bring the team together.
No question. Mechie's been dealt a lot of, tough breaks. This kid, I really feel for him. I know this isn't a football issue. I mean, it's bigger than football, and I'm sure you guys are supporting him. How do you support somebody like that? I mean, because obviously he's not in the training room, but how do you make that commitment and say, hey, we're with you every step of the way? It's such a unique issue. I know that David Quisenberry had an issue down there in Houston as well, and had to go through some treatment. How do you approach that as a head coach?
The first thing we did, Chris, was let him talk to the team, to just go over, hey, guys, this is what I'm going through. Even though I'm not going to be there as often as I like right now, just know what I'm doing. While you take care of business, just know what I'm doing. And for them to know, hey, it's leukemia. He's in a battle. We understand that part of it. Yeah. But if you've been around John, he's fought some things in his life. And if you have something like that going on, first off, on where you are, we're in Houston. Yeah. MD Anderson, some of the best doctors around are right here in town. So with the team knowing what the plan is, no different than football, guys, here's our plan on how we're going to win football. It's been established, the plan that John's going to have this year. So, and as a team, as coaches, a part of the team, support, being there, reaching out to him as much as we possibly can. And in time, they'll be able to see him around here also.
Yeah, well, we hope he gets better soon. What about these running backs in this division, man? I mean, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and the guys in Jacksonville are not too bad either.
No.
How does that shape the way you guys? Does it shape the way you practice? Would you practice that anyways with your background? I mean, the game's changed so much, but it doesn't seem like it's changed in your division.
No, it hadn't. And Chris, our defense, I feel, is set up to stop teams that run the football first off. We're a gap-sound defensive football team.
Right.
And so you start with stopping the run. And you're right. Derrick Henry, he's bigger than most of the he weighs more than most of our defensive linemen. But you have to know where you need to hit big guys. With our concept on how we play defense, single gap, extra guy in the box to stop the run. We would rather those teams, whether it be Indy with Jonathan Taylor or, of course, Tennessee with Henry, of just taking, we got to stop the run, committing to stopping the run, and just putting more pressure on the outside. But when you're in this division, as you said, we're Chicago, black and blue division, whatever you want to call it, you knew what it was going to be about. Tough guys. Yeah. And that's what we have down here. That's what you need.
No question. It's a little frozen in time down there. And I can remember the game changed from even when I got in the league in 2008 to the end of my career. I'll never forget towards the end of my career running sideways half the game in the run game. It's like when I was in the NFC West, they ran power, they ran counter, they ran all that stuff. They don't run it anymore. So do you remember being in Chicago or being in Tampa or the various places you've been, like a running back or two that kept you up at night the most?
Well, those days, man, when I first came in the league, that's easy. When I was in Tampa first go around, Barry Sanders was in Detroit. And when I went to Chicago, Adrian Peterson, he came into the league.
Yeah.
So those running attacks, it just seemed like everywhere I've been, there's been a man at the running. I know nowadays, we're going farther and farther away from the running game. A lot of teams are spread out, throw the ball. You can't get noticed unless you can throw the ball, catch the ball, all of that.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was about everybody had a guy that you had to deal with. That's why right now, AFC South seemed like that's the case. And we mentioned Indy, we mentioned Tennessee, but we're a little bit more by committee, and Jacksonville will be a little bit on the same, but both are also committed to the run.
No question. So, I think it's really cool looking back at that Super Bowl you guys made it to in Chicago. I mean, I know you came up short and everything, but you're the first black head coach to, by a few hours to go to a Super Bowl. And then Tony follows you, and I know you guys have a relationship and that sort of thing. Like, what did that mean? And then also, what do we do to fix the problem? Because there's not enough representation in pro football. And we had 8 coaches a few years ago, 8 head coaches, and it feels like it just, I don't know what happened. So,
yeah. Well,
with your history, in that game and what that meant to you and seeing all that, like what do we do from here?
Well, first, Chris, just growing up, I want to be a coach. Yeah. It helps a lot, when somebody wants to be a defensive end, that they've seen you do it before. Yeah. And they look like you. Mm-hmm. Growing up, I didn't have those role models. I saw Tom Landry on the sideline. That was my perception of a coach. After time, there were a few assistants that we had. I didn't have a black a coach that I played for until I got to college. But you get into it and you get it. There's an opening. I was the only black coach on staffs for a lot of years, and things start to change a little bit. I just felt like when I got an opportunity and every black coach around say, we need to do a good job to bring more opportunities for others. As I start going up through the ranks, though, there are enough people out there, you're bringing attention to it that say, hey, this is wrong, and I'm going to do everything I can to try to change that. And that's how it happened a little bit for me. And as you mentioned, when I did get a chance, Tony and I got a chance to be on that stage, that kind of validated that this can be okay. I mean, there's a long time we knew that we could coach, but that validated it a little bit. So what can we do? The pressure I feel is to do well. I've been blessed. The Mike Tomlins, the guys with an opportunity. We need to do well. On why it has changed, Chris, that's a misnomer to me. Yeah. Because society seems like we've come a long ways, but in the end, it comes down to, do you feel comfortable with a black man leading your organization? And sometimes I look, for me, since I've gotten 3 opportunities, I don't feel the true, I don't get the full gist of what all has happened. And I don't have any answers except for what I try to do with my staff. You look at our staff, we have black representation. I don't want to hear this where it's not qualified guys, all of that. There are. Mm-hmm. So to me, trying to get guys in the pipeline and then putting men in position for them to show you who they are. Hep Hamilton, a black coach, will call offensive plays. He coaches the quarterbacks. All the position that I've heard that we're not supposed to be able to do, we're going to show people that that's not the case and put pressure on people when we do well to hire more of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said it, like the people in the passing game, quarterback coaches, linebacker coaches, it seems like they try to protect those pipelines.
Yes.
It's intentional or unintentional. It's been, and I thought there was a big movement away from defensive head coaches a couple of years ago. I feel like, that was a thing for a while. And then we go back to these young quarterback coach phenoms. But you're right. It's like, if you don't get the opportunity to grow in that pipeline, it's going to be hard to rise to the top.
Yeah. And Chris, as you said, I mean, I'm a 64-year-old. I've seen an awful lot. Yeah. You get in box, all right, and who gets a head job? All right, well, I'm looking for an offensive guy, quarterback coach. Well, there are not any black quarterback coaches, not a whole lot of offensive coordinators. So you're not going to get any head football coaches. Yeah. And you're right. There were more defensive guys in position, but defensive coaches, no, we want an offensive coach. We've heard all of those different things. And eventually, though, you have 32 owners, and you need somebody with an open mind that says, these people can do it. When you're in the locker room, I mean, how many times, Chris, do you say, you know what, my teammate is black? A lot of those things don't come up. You just judge a man based on what he can do, but you have to be deliberate, and it's got to be intentional about hiring someone. Yeah. You can't, well, it just didn't happen. No, you have to make a point of looking beyond that. And it's just not about interviews. Yeah. I'm going to interview these guys. I know who. No, you got to be real and give people a chance. And I think you'll be surprised at what you can find on a lot of people that look like me.
Yeah, amen. I got one last question for you. Jameis Winston, you had some time with him in Tampa. I think you drafted him.
Yes,
is that right? Yeah. I've been really impressed with his maturity. I think he seems to have grown a lot, from a distance. from playing him in 2014, one of my last games in St. Louis. Do you remember the game where we had to wear the yellow and y'all had to wear the red? It was a Thursday night game. It was
come on, I remember that. It didn't turn out well for us. I remember that.
Well, me neither. I was playing on a broken leg. It was terrible. I was awful. So, but Jameis tripped me going back to we all hit it like a 25-yard gain, and I'm running down the field, and I hit the deck, and I'm like, "What the fuck happened?" Jameis is smiling at me, and I love that kid side of him. Like I love that like backyard football side of him, but I know he's had to mature too. Have you been impressed watching him over the past couple of years make these decisions from a career standpoint? Because I think a lot of people rush into the first available job. And I think that was really cool of him to say, hey, I'm going to take a year and learn and reset.
Yeah, we have a history together. You're right. I was a head football coach when we picked him with the first pick. So I believe in him. Did a lot of research on him. He can come into a room. He's bright. He's got it. And he can make all the throws. You know, when you're a young quarterback coming in the league, there's a lot going on. Yeah. And sometimes it just doesn't work. I'm just so excited and glad that he got another opportunity. But when you're a smart guy like Jameis is, we all adjust when things don't turn out exactly the way we wanted them to, maybe the first go around. But I know he's in a great situation right now. You know, with Dennis, I know, and he's a guy, and I just believe he's eventually going to be one of the any and everything you're looking for in your leader, quarterback, thrower, all of that. Jameis has.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him play this year. Coach Smith, I really appreciate the time, and I'm wishing y'all the best of luck this year. It's going to be fun watching y'all.
Love the way you played the game, Chris. It's great talking with you. Talk to you later.
I appreciate it. See you, Coach.
All right.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.